Hello everyone and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I am joined by a very special guest today, Mariam from She Scores Bangers. Very excited to have her on the channel. Mariam, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Very, very excited to talk to you about all things Canada.
We are, and we're going to dive right into it. We're going to do this episode in kind of three sections. Section 1 is going to be Drone Gate. Let's begin there. I just want to get your overall reaction to when that news came out, because for me, quickly, I was flabbergasted. The fact that it actually happened, that from everything the Olympics represents, the fact that we're the defending gold medal champions, everything that this team and really Canadian soccer has had to deal with off the pitch, to do something so dumb and for no reason against a team that you shouldn't really need any advantage against, it was just awful. And I felt for the players leading into this match. So how do you want to, what are your thoughts on it? And then finish off with, what do you think is going to be the future of Bev?
Yeah, I think flabbergasted will also be a very accurate description of how I felt when I first saw the news surfacing out of New Zealand media. Yeah, I think it's a very reckless and dangerous thing to do, like you said, against an opposition that hasn't beaten Canada and hasn't gone a victory over Canada since 1987. So it's not an opposition that has particularly threatened Canada, and it's the group stages. It's not like Canada was going up against Spain in the finals. This was New Zealand in the group stages. It was the opening game of their campaign. And so reckless, quite unnecessary and unavoidable drama, because everything going into Thursday or into to the game against New Zealand was kind of set up perfectly. They had a full training camp in Spain. They had a mini training camp in Toronto where Bev Priestman did her roster selection. It was like everything was too good to be true to just be completely ruined by a very reckless and completely unnecessary flying of drone to attempt to cheat against an opposition that, again, hasn't really had the best time beating Canada. So obviously the two assistant coaches dismissed, and Bev Priestman withdrew herself from coaching the team on the sidelines against New Zealand, which was only the right thing to do. I think it would have been a big integrity question, like still the many integrity questions, if she was still on the sideline coaching the players. And there's still obviously a lot of questions around how much did she know? Was she complicit at all? She said that she hasn't directed any individuals to do this. And really, there's two cases here of if she is actually complicit and she was aware of this, a separation from her position is to be expected. And I don't really know what her coaching career after that looks like. And if she was not complicit and she actually did not know to what she's claiming, then there's serious questions around the trust or the level of distrust between herself and the coaching staff, and how much has she lost her staff, because Jasmine Mander, the assistant coach that was dismissed, is pretty much Bev Priestman's right hand and is a very, very close coach to what Bev has built with this Canadian team. So a lot of questions, and there's already a lot of eyes on her this Olympics, and certainly this does not make it any easier. I think she'd be hoping to podium and leave with a medal to calm down a little bit of the noise asking for her to be removed. But in both cases, either if she's guilty or not, she is the head coach, and everything that happens in camp is under her watch, and she has to take accountability of it.
Well, yeah, whether she knew or didn't know doesn't really matter. It's a lose-lose situation. And just to give everyone an update on the situation, COC put out a statement on Bev Priestman and said this: the Canadian Olympic Committee has removed Canadian women's national team head coach Bev Priestman from the Canadian Olympic team due to her suspension by Canada Soccer. Assistant coach Andy Spence will lead the women's national team for the remainder of the Paris 2024 Olympics. Canada Soccer CEO and General Secretary Kevin Blue did make the following statement: over the past 24 hours, additional information has come to our attention regarding previous drone use against opponents predating the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. In light of these new revelations, Canada Soccer has made the decision to suspend women's national team head coach Bev Priestman for the remainder of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games and until the completion of a recently announced independent external review. Now, Bev was away for the match we just saw between Canada and New Zealand. I honestly thought going into this game that I was very close to tweeting it out, but I didn't because Canada started really picking up the game. But I was going to say something along the lines of, well, it almost seems like Canada's distracted by something. It wasn't the greatest start. Canada, obviously, off a set piece, went down early, but they did start really building their way back into the game, dominating possession, scoring a goal that came at, in my opinion, a very important time. And then it kind of seemed at some point in the second half they would find the winner. They did. They took all 3 points. I'm going to get your just initial thoughts on the match. even though it was 2-1, it never really felt crazy uncomfortable, especially once Canada started building the way back in. And there's a lot of really good individual performances, as well as, in my opinion, I thought Adriana Leon looked a little off her best. So pick a topic. Where do you want to begin?
I think Canada made it a little bit too difficult for them going down initially, and then obviously they equalized, and it was like, right, there was the right momentum building to be able to go up ahead. But still, when they were 2-1 up and there was 8 minutes of added time, that's not a very comfortable position to be in. So they didn't make it very easy for them. But what we got to see, I think, in this game was that this 90 minutes of play was really determined on the quality of ball touches that Canada was having. I think we got to see too many lost possessions in that first half. I mean, they were building before conceding that goal and then just got a little bit too sloppy. But that first half and that second half, the difference between them for me was the quality of the ball touches that they had. And I think that was really apparent in both of the goals. Lacaze's goal that equalized, like you highlighted at a very great time, was off a sequence of one touch passing from Ashley Lawrence and Nichelle Prince, very similar to Evelyn Vienne's winner. It was a one-touch strike. So for the team, it's important to be able to go back to the training ground and figure out their passing. And it's funny, you could even hear the assistant coach on the touchline, Andy Spencer, on the CBC broadcast saying, connect your passes. Like he was, clearly frustrated with all these lost balls and nobody able to really get a ball and a first good touch. It would just go into loose space, or you have New Zealand taking in a throw. And so I'm not sure if that was just being rusty or lack of focus, but a team like Canada cannot be losing possession when they love to move the ball, especially against opposition like France, because France isn't at the caliber of New Zealand, and they will be punishing Canada much, much harder than what New Zealand was attempting to do today. So for me, the quality and the touches on the ball needed to be better. When it was good, Canada was looking really sharp and dangerous. When it wasn't, it just looked really sloppy. Another thing that I feel like we noticed this game was the 3 first-time Olympians. Chloe Lacasse and her goal, Simi Awuju, when she came in the second half, you could already tell how effective she made that midfield. And Jade Rose, for me, stole the show. She was leading the charge. I mean, super calm, just so mature with her play. It's crazy to think that she's not still a professional player because she plays with so much maturity in her play, but so active, so creative on that right flank. Whoever it was that she was overlapping with, she was present, and she was aware of the players that were marking her, but also her teammates and which areas she wanted to connect with them. So I think we saw the difference of the new faces that Canada had, which you compare it to New Zealand. New Zealand has 10 new Olympians on their squad, and some of them did get some playing time today. And when you're able to compare that quality between those first-time debuting Olympians, it made sense why Jade Rose and Simi Awuju and Chloe Lacasse were in Paris. They proved their minutes worthy today. So for me, it was a quality of players, a quality of touches, and very clutch players of Evelyn Vienne, who, I mean, she is such a good poacher. She just knows how to score. If she's, it's funny, she hasn't found much success when she starts, but when she's off the bench, she comes up with such fire in her belly that I think opposition needs to be really afraid when she's coming on in the 60th, 70th minute, because she will be punishing.
Absolutely. And yeah, Jade Rose has been one of my favorite players to watch. She's been incredible ever since she joined up with the Canadian women's national team. She keeps growing. I can't wait to see where she ends up, what club she eventually does sign for. I thought Jessie Fleming was a very important piece of this team as well, as we expect from her. And yeah, Evelyn Vienne coming off the bench. I mean, that finish was just perfect. And it's a shame that she didn't get that last one at the end, because the chop was just set her up so perfectly. And I know that she'd obviously want a second hit at that, but put it right down to the keeper. But that's what you want. And I'm mentioning some of these players because I'm getting to Adriana Leon, who I thought was really the only player who I thought had an off game, because she's been so incredible for this national team for a while now. She's been, if it wasn't Jade Rose, she's my other favorite player to watch in recent times. She's just does a little bit of everything. And you mentioned when Canada was good today, it was because they were playing fluid football. Good passing, 1-2 touches. And it seemed to me like Adriana Leon kind of got in the way of that at times. When she should have made a pass, she didn't. When she should have maybe took on a player, she made the wrong decision. She just didn't feel really into the game. And knowing how important she's going to be for this team going forward, especially against a nation like France, who we have up next, how do you think we can unlock her a little bit more? Do you think this was just an off game? Do you think it's anything really to worry about, or would you tweak something?
I think you'd hope it's an off game, because I completely agree. I think one of the great qualities, but also a quality that kind of is a con with Adriana Leon is that she's very chaotic, and she sometimes that confuses opposition of like they don't really know where she's headed or where she's taking the ball, and she has this odd kind of change of pace that confuses opposition, and she brings chaos into the box. It kind of can draw a penalty. Like it's a chaotic style of play that has suited her, but at the same time it leads to a lot of lost possession when it's just completely off balance. The number of times that, like you mentioned, she should have passed or looked around a little bit more was one too many to count. And I even think she got taken off a little bit too late. Even you could make an argument for that. I think with Adriana Leon, it's a matter of consistency, and I think that falls back to camp and being able, the coaching staff being able to get the best out of Adriana Leon in a consistent manner. Because I think when she's firing and she's having a really good game, she's a player to count on. Absolutely, she can score in the opening 45. She can score in the dying seconds of the game. She's available in there when she's consistent. And so I think that falls back into the training camp of figuring out: is it a partnership problem? Is it just the number of fullbacks that were marking her? Is it because it was a low block and she just didn't feel comfortable? Is it the service that she was getting? So I think that falls back to reviewing the footage and looking at the partnerships around her. Because Adriana Leon is a player that you need to get consistency out of. She cannot have a good game and a bad game. It's, the Olympics is 6 games in 16 days. There's no trying to figure out a rhythm. You have to jump into rhythm from the get-go.
So looking ahead to this France match then, I'm assuming the starting 11 will look very similar. Sheridan, Rose, Jill, Buchanan will be the back four. That's pretty easy. I'm assuming, and you can jump in anytime where if you think you disagree. I'm assuming they'll go with Quinn and Fleming again. Lawrence will obviously be down the right. I do wonder if they could switch up the left wing back. I thought Gabby Carl had a great match, but we need to maybe find a way to get Becky on the pitch. And I thought Lacasse had a good match. I'm assuming Vienne, even though she was great, will come on as a super sub again. So I'm guessing we'll see Prince and then Adriana Leon, who I would expect, it'd be very harsh to drop her. I'm expecting her to start. But would you switch anything up? Would you go with the exact same starting 11 that we saw, or would you find a way to maybe get a Becky in there?
I think I would find a way to get a Becky in there, and I think it would be an Adriana Leon switch, particularly because Leon has also shown hints of a Vienne when she comes off the bench. She could be firing. I thought Jordan Heidema was almost invisible today, so I'm not sure she cuts the roster of making the starting 11, and I don't know if she's sitting on the bench with Leon, she'll make it on the pitch before her. So I think you get Becky in there because France is an opposition that gets going super fast, and Becky, when she gets that engine running, good luck stopping her. And she's, if anything, she's one of the few Canadian players that actually gets going from the first kick of the ball. And a team like France will also ask of Canada of that. So I think Becky actually slides in. I enjoyed Quinn and Fleming's pivot. I mean, sometimes it wasn't as smooth, but I think that the whole team was having moments and spells of not being so smooth. But Becky would probably my only switch. Granted, I think, like you highlighted, Vienne would be another super sub because it's worked brilliantly that way. And I don't mind Leon off the bench. I think she comes in with a certain fire as well to prove something. And I think what was so great in this game is we got to see depth of the squad. Obviously, Jade Riviere was injured and wasn't on the squad list, and it was enough for the players that we had, or Canada had, to be able to grit a win like that. And I think it shows you the quality of the bench, and it shows you the quality of the starting 11, which is all really, really great positive takeaways for Canada here.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gabby Carl didn't make the original 18. Yeah. She got brought in and, right into the starting 11, and I thought she had a really good match. So much so that, when you were deciding which player to take out, because I thought you were maybe you could put Lacasse maybe at left wing back and bring Becky in, maybe move Leon over, something like that. But you decided to keep Carl in, so I think it shows just how good of a match that she has, and I agree. So I guess just to end off the episode, it's a simple question. What do you think Canada has to get right to get a result against France?
I think they have to be much, much sharper everywhere. Much sharper in front of goal, because Canada is not a team that's going to get many, many opportunities against France's goal, but also set pieces. And I think that actually was a point that I didn't even highlight earlier, but New Zealand had 2 corners. They scored from one and they put Canada in trouble in the other. And if you look at France and the height that they have on their team of Katoto and Wendy Renard, those are killers when it comes to corners. So Canada need to really tighten up those set piece defending quickly, because if they're conceding from New Zealand, they're not going to be having a fun time defending France. France. And so for Canada, they need to be sharper when they're in front of goal, because it's not going to be a mountain of chances that they're going to be getting. And tightening set pieces is going to be vital, because France, I mean, I cannot count how many games France has won off set pieces, specifically corners. That, I mean, if you're taking the same Canada that played today against New Zealand and put them against France, they might be conceding a few from corners. So certainly something for them to look at and tie up. But it's going to be a very fantastic, I think, game. I think the crowd will be fun. I know there wasn't a great showing against New Zealand, but France, they're going to have home crowd, and it's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, the aerial presence of France is definitely a worry. And that's what I was going to highlight there, just to add something was don't let the occasion get to them. I mean, it's against France. It's the home nation. You just came off a game where there wasn't a lot of an atmosphere, but you're going to be going into one that's going to have a huge atmosphere, and it's going to be important in terms of where you're going to finish in this group. So it'll be a lot of fun. Mariam will have more content on it as well. If you want to check her out, we'll put a link to her YouTube channel and her X in the description of She Scores Bangers. She does incredible work there. I really appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Josh.